Welcome to the Grow Your Business for Good show. This is a place where coaches and consultants gather so you can learn how to lead a world-class business that does not tax your time, your energy, or your financial resources. We are your hosts, Shannon Hernandez
and Amy Hager of the Joyful Business Revolution. And our number one goal is to bring you clarity and insight on how to grow your business for good.
Hello, everyone. It is Shannon, and I am back from Bali. I had a magical time away, and we're hitting these podcast streets today with a beautiful guest. Her name is Deb Boulanger. I've known her for a very long time, and I'm so excited she's going to be here. We're going to be talking about reinventing your business model for long-term scalability, profitability, and success. So, Deb, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Shannon. It's a pleasure to be here.
Deb is a sought-after speaker, a business mentor, and a thought leader, helping high-achieving women leaders successfully transition from corporate careers to profitable coaching and consulting businesses. She has a 25-year background in corporate leadership, where she managed multi-million-dollar business lines, and she now guides women through the complexities, and aren't there a lot of them, of entrepreneurship with proven strategies in sales, marketing, and business growth. Deb is the CEO of Life After Corporate and the host of the Life After Corporate podcast. And she shares deep insights on business strategy, overcoming mindset blocks, and building sustainable six-figure businesses. Her engaging, no-nonsense approach has made her a go-to expert for professional conferences, masterminds, and top-ranked podcasts. And Deb, I'm just going to go on the record and say, I think you and I like each other so much because we're both no fluff, no nonsense. Let's just get to work and have fun while doing it.
Absolutely, 1000%, Shannon.
Oh, so if you've been listening to this podcast, you know that we are in the spring season. We have successfully transitioned our energy here at Joyful Business Revolution to the energy of aligning with nature's rhythms and nature systems, because I really do believe Mother Nature has got this thing figured out. And Deb and I want to just have a beautiful conversation with you today about the season of spring and the macro seasons that happen within seasons and kind of what we're seeing now in the business landscape. And so, Deb, let me ask you, what does spring season mean to you in your business?
Well, it's so funny that you ask, because even in my personal life, from the time that I was a younger woman, it was always April. April was a period of reflection, of beautiful feeling of new beginnings. It's like sitting on a meditation cushion and beginning again, right? So planting those seeds of growth. And it's never changed for me as a business owner the last 12 years. Spring is always a time of reflection, renewal, regrowth, reactivation of focus and energies. And it's just really a beautiful time.
Yes, I love that. For me, spring, so I spent a lot of the winter this year. And honestly, Deb, it was an act of trust and resistance. So from December 20 until really March 20, which I celebrated the equinox in Bali, which was amazing, by the way, I really did the work of deep rest, deep relaxation, deep reflection. And this is the first year I haven't dove in January with that energy of, it's the new year, let's hit the ground running. And I cannot tell you the difference it has made in my life, in my business, in my creativity, in my mindset, like to honor that period here in the Northern Hemisphere of the deep rest was game changing for me.
Huge. And the friends we have in common who are tied into the metaphysical world and the astrological omens, I mean, it's what everybody has been saying, is that this is not a time for hustling. Q1 was a time for getting everything in order, accepting the energies as they were aligned, not stopping, but also not pushing, not really pushing and trying to force things to happen.
Yeah. So Deb, tell me a little bit about life after corporate. First of all, as a messaging strategist, you freaking nailed the name. So thank you. It says everything it needs to say. How did it start? How did it begin? Tell us a little bit about your journey of what brought you here now.
Yeah, and it wasn't always life after corporate. So I spent about 27 years in corporate in various roles in sales, marketing, product development, managing a line of business, really being an intrapreneur inside of a company. So I was fortunate in that way. I got to have a lot of experiences and roles. And then when I was about 53, 54 years old, just my personal life started going through a lot of changes. I was getting a divorce. I had grown this line of business from 0 to 32 million in like 30 months and went from 5 to 53 employees. And I burned out. The flame blew out. And there was nowhere I wanted to go laterally. I mean, my only step up would have been C-suite, and I had no interest in, not in this company anyway, being in the C-suite chair. And I thought, let me go on a meditation retreat and I'll figure this out. And I did that retreat for 3 years, and for 5 years. And I think it was in year 3 where I got this vision that I was supposed to coach other women in how to reinvent themselves. Because during this period, I had done this whole spiritual, physical, emotional, just complete overhaul of my life in a big way. And I launched a business called The Great Do-Over and started coaching women who were in midlife wanting that bigger change. And then when my son went off to college and my mom duties were kind of done for the intensity of mom duties were over, I sat down at the kitchen table with my journal and said, okay, what's next? And what's next became the passion project, and the passion project was life after corporate. And that I was to blend all of my lifetime of experience in sales, marketing, product development, managing a line of business, and the spiritual growth and development as well, and bring it all together. And that's where I saw women struggling with replacing their corporate salaries after leaving a high-paying corporate job. And I figured I could fix that.
Absolutely. Wow. I love that another thing we share, which because I'm listening to your story, most of my big aha moments happen in my journal after an extensive period of quiet.
Yeah.
And I think I want to just encourage everyone listening to this podcast episode today. If you do not take a few moments every morning to sit with yourself in quiet and jot down those pure, I'll call them spiritual guided thoughts that come to you, please make that a practice. It is probably one of the best things I do for my mental health, my self-care. And also I call it like CEO as my spirit as my CEO. And I'll often have like this dialogue with spirit as the CEO, right? And like, it's amazing what comes out on the journal after those.
Yes.
Yeah.
So true.
Okay. So it is going to be no surprise to anyone. You're listening to this podcast in 2025. We have made it through COVID. We have made it through a presidential, I'll just say shit show. I don't know what else to call it these days. All right. The market's up, the market's down. In the past 3 years, Deb, in your business, what's the greatest insight that you've had in market shifts? And on those insights, because we're talking about these insights, right, that come to us, what have you shifted and what have you seen as results? of that?
Yeah, well, that's a big question. First, I want to just talk about the macro season that we're in. And I'm old enough to have been through a couple of these seasons before. So they might not rattle me as much as they do someone who hasn't experienced it before, right? And recently, I live on the east end of Long Island. And about a month and a half ago, we had wildfires, and we've had wildfires in California as well. And sometimes the forest has to burn for new growth to emerge. And my partner came home the other day and said, Deb, you're not going to believe this, where all the fires were, all these little sprouts of new pine trees are sprouting up. And the same is true for life in general. And I was naive enough 5 years ago to think I had built a business model that was going to see me through the end of my entrepreneurial days. All I had to do was rinse and repeat, keep doing what I was doing. And that was a $4 million business model. And it was so smooth. I had it all mapped out, except, the universe has other plans. And so one of the things that I'm working with clients on now is, what is the new problem now? Right? So what is the new problem now? For me, last December, when you asked about the last 3 years, we had the Launch Lab for Women Entrepreneurs, which is where people go right after corporate, because that's your incubator where you test your ideas and you figure out what is your business model. And then the Reliable Revenue Mastermind. And then I had clients who wanted to stay with me even longer, and we had a year-long program called Impact Builders. But at the end of last year, I was no longer feeling aligned with Impact Builders. Like, these people had grown as far as I really wanted to take them. And I really felt like, if you want to go further, you need to go work with someone else, because my love is for those at the beginning stages. So I retired that platform. And because there was this new price sensitivity in the market, because of all the political and economic uncertainty, and because there was this lack of trust in business coaching, because let's face it, people have been consuming courses and programs, and the problem is they're not educated buyers all the time. So they're consuming things that they're not ready for. They don't get the results, and then they lose faith and trust in the entire coaching model. So I saw that happening, and I had avoided low ticket offers. And Shannon, you and I grew up at the same time, right? It was like the plague if you were to launch anything that was a low ticket price. And I decided it's really time for something affordable for a community. And we were talking before you hit record about why this is such a season of needing community and wanting to build together and learn from each other. And I think because of the isolation of COVID, we still have this desire to be with people who are having the same experience as we are and to learn from each other. So I launched the Life After Corporate community last December. And it's really one of our biggest joys, and surprisingly a starting point for people to join our other programs. So it's really worked out beautifully for us so far.
I love that. And I do want to say, we did a whole episode on this, and just to refresh everyone's memory, the words low ticket, high ticket, or any other thing, they're relative, right? And so it's really important. I've made the stand, and Deb, I'm sure you will agree. I actually have removed all of that language from my messaging and from my marketing, because if you're reading it and you're making X amount, or you're coming from a corporate that's making X amount, and then you see X amount, you're going to have a reaction, whether it's just like Goldilocks. Is it too little, too much, or just right? Right.
Yeah.
And so I love that you have listened to the market shifts and really moved in a way that, one, is bringing you joy, because I heard that first, right? Joy for you, joy for your community. And two, is accessible entry point for people.
Yes.
And I think that is one of the things that we here at Joyful Business Revolution have been working on in the past couple of years. We've got the quote unquote high ticket, right? The year-long coaching model. For those who are already established, maybe they've left that corporate, they've got their business up and running. We're really in this, like, let's expand and scale place to help business owners. But we did realize too that not everyone who's expanding and scaling wants a year-long program. And so last year, and this is why we're talking about this, y'all, is what are we listening to in the market and how are we reinventing or shifting our business model, right? Last year, Deb, in December, I sat down and I looked at what were the most requested things people came to me for, like a standalone offer, right? It was, they wanted me to review a sales page and then give them 30 quote unquote funnel topics that would nurture people to that offer. They wanted me to give them an email marketing makeover, which is really fun, reinvigorate the list, clean up the list, talk to the list in a new way, or they wanted a lead magnet. And so I spent the month of December, after reflection, right, really rolling out in January and February these standalone offers, right? And they're at a different price point than the year-long coaching. And so we are giving you permission, if you are listening to this today, to take a pause, listen to what your heart is saying and your joy is saying, and do things your own way. You do not have to stay forever in the model that you have, especially if it's not bringing you joy, because it's really hard to sell things you don't want to fulfill on. The end of
It's true. It is so true. And, I remember thinking, I wouldn't be upset if no one renewed this program, right? Which is opening the door for no one renewing the program. And while some people wanted to, those who wanted to, I put them into other containers that they're happy in, either, periodic one-on-one, which is fine, which also gives me joy. I love going deep with clients and being able to make a measurable difference in their business model. But that doesn't scale. And we were talking about scalability, and communities are infinitely scalable.
Yeah, I love this. So what's next for you? What are some of your fun goals for the next couple of years? And I'm not always one to say 5 years out, because listen, sometimes we can't plan 5 years out, and it's okay. But what is exciting in your world right now?
Well, there's so much exciting that, and I'm not really sure how much I want to talk about it right now,
Okay.
but we are testing out a new idea. And what I love what you said, Shannon, is listening, reflecting back and listening. What was the most common narrative that you heard from all of your conversations last year? And, the narrative that I kept hearing is, I've invested so much and I have nothing to show for it. And so when I hear those words, that excites me. I don't know about you. It's just like I get excited and motivated and say, well, that's a problem I can solve. So I'm looking at new ways to solve that problem. And part of that might be helping other business coaches who don't have such a broad experience from corporate just get smarter around the product development process, so that you don't teach people things out of order. You don't teach them to leverage their LinkedIn when they haven't figured out their value proposition, or they don't know what differentiates them from everybody else. And, the good news is that coaching and consulting and fractional CXO work is all acceptable business models right now. The bad news is there are a lot of people running to those various business models, and your ability to stand out and be different is diminished. Coaching in general has grown 54% since 2020, from 2019 to 2022. And the average coach makes $52,000. And so one of those reasons is because you don't understand sales, marketing, product development, how to stand out with your messaging. And today, because there's so much noise and the markets are so crowded, you need to be super tight with your messaging, which Shannon knows, and, and how you're creating relationships with the people who are in your ecosystems, so that you don't have to have complex funnels and all this technology and all these bells and whistles in the back end. And so many people do that, right? So they dive in, they get this tripwire, this funnel, and they've educated themselves. They got complex technology stacks on the back end and no clients, right? So that's the problem that Shannon and I are both solving, and we solve it in different ways, which is really exciting too.
Yes. And I just want to ask you, Deb, because I think this is super fun. You said, and I'm not asking you to say the idea you're not ready to say yet, but how do you test your ideas to see if they are like a full on hell yes, we're going with it?
Yeah. Well, you talk to real people, and, and I've seen a lot of friends and colleagues build products with AI, right? And they get this idea, oh, here's my group program. These are all the modules. This is what's in each module. This is how to price it and message it, and they go right to market. And I'm all about market research, right? So it's test before you invest. If you have an idea, that's a hypothesis. It's an idea. It's not a product until you meet with people who represent your ideal client for that offer, and you test it with them, and you test the price point, and you get a sense of what is the price elasticity. How are people equating value with this? What are the pieces of it that are most valuable? What are least valuable? What's missing? What would they do instead? So I always love, when people are first starting out, to even start with a blank slate. Don't come to the conversation with any preconceived notion, because this is how you get to solve the most relevant problem now, is by understanding how people's needs have shifted and changed. And we're in this dynamic environment of changes happening so quickly. We're changing, like Shannon, you're evolving and changing. I'm evolving and changing. The outside world is a little bit chaotic right now. And so entrepreneurship requires this bendability and flexibility to solve the new problem now. If you're a DEI consultant and you're trying to sell your services, it's like wrong offer, wrong time. But if you want to give women a place to gather together and learn and grow together, then maybe that's a great offer.
Yeah, I love this. And I cannot say this enough. And Deb and I, we did grow up, quote unquote, grow up in the same ecosystem, learning how to run a business. All right. An independent business. There is an order of operations that needs to happen. And Deb, I think this is not talked about enough. And it's why so many people either come from corporate or come from wherever and start a business, and they buy some big, flashy freaking program that has all the bells and whistles, but it actually doesn't have the substance and what I would call the foundation of, like, do you know your audience? Do you know your unique selling point or your unique proposition, right? Is your offer matched to your audience? Is it messaged in a way that is clear? Notice I did not say enticing, said clear, y'all, right? And so, Deb hinted on this, but I'm going to stop and I'm going to make this like really bold claim right now. If you're looking to work with a coach or a consultant or a strategist, you need to ask, what is their process? And if they cannot answer that and it does not make sense to you, it's time to find someone new. There is a process that needs to happen. And Deb, you're right. Oh my God, I've been seeing the content you've been putting out about coaching, the coaching industry, and people losing trust. We get so many clients to us who have invested in those flashy funnels you've talked about, or they were told to do ads and then they lost their ass on ads, or they were told to build like a huge webinar funnel and then they didn't even have like their offer solidified, and they come and they're so disillusioned and disheartened, and it makes my heart hurt.
Same here. I mean, it's actually painful to hear that, and it's not their fault, but it is our responsibility to educate and inform and show people the path to, how to choose a business coach, or what is the process for bringing your idea to market. It's not as simple as just hanging out a shingle and saying, hey, I'm an XYZ consultant, or hey, I'm I'm an executive coach. This is what I can help you do. There's so much more involved in that. And sometimes, I love the way when you're moving in the right direction, the universe conspires in your favor, and these these people frequently will get a client or two. And so they feel real confident saying, well, I already got a client, so I am on the right path. I can just keep going. But you still need to take a pause. And if you have a client that's joined you and you have cash flow or you have a part-time job, it's a perfect opportunity to take some time to test. And, to the topic of this podcast, make sure whatever you build has some scalability eventually built into it. So after you're out of the test phase, then we look at, well, how do we make this scalable? And for coaches, that's moving beyond one-on-one coaching into something that's more scalable. For consultants, that could mean also building a group program. People don't realize that executives are lonely too, and that you can build business models around executive community as well as content. And that's a highly lucrative and scalable business model as well. So looking for that scalability and ensuring not only that you can replace your corporate salary, but you're in a position to really build true wealth.
Yeah, I love that. You mentioned AI, so I just want to go there for one moment. Okay. Now, I am the latest adopter of all adopters to AI. This is probably the first time I know. This is probably the first time I've ever talked about AI publicly, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I logged in to ChatGPT for the first time in November. And the reason why I think it's really important for everyone to know is, as a messaging strategist, when AI hit the scene, our business tanked in that first quarter when AI hit the scene. And just to paint a very dismal picture for you all, we had come off nearly $1 million in revenue in December. And in that next quarter of business, we made $15,000 in sales total.
Wow.
Okay. Now, there were some reasons for this, mainly because AI hit the scene, but mainly because I had gone all in on messaging without actually putting messaging strategy behind the word messaging. And so people thought they could just go get messaging from AI, right? And all of our leads dried up. They've all come back in full force. They're like, yeah, this shit doesn't work. So, Deb, do you use AI in your business, and what kind of in your brand are your standards? Like, I will use AI for this, but you won't see me do it for this. I'd love to have this conversation.
Oh, amazing. Well, I started using AI mostly as a business strategist because I, like you, I think how you think about things, we're selling thought leadership here. And, you don't get thought leadership out of an AI bot. You can educate the bot on your thought leadership, but it doesn't create the thought leadership platform for you. So that's number one. So we started with business planning, and I'm a little geeky on the tech side. So I uploaded 4 years of business financials. I asked for an analysis of, where we could increase profitability, where there was an opportunity for revenue growth. And what really impressed me was the responses that I got out of that, and also the identification of a community or a membership program as a really good growth strategy, which I was already thinking about. So that was, I was doing that planning in November. I decided on the community in October. So it was just really validating on that score. And then I used it to put together my 2025 business plan. And that has been an interesting framework to work within. I haven't hit the numbers yet, but it really gave me some good focus. Now, I also use AI for content. However, I am the director of that content. So if you go to my LinkedIn and you see that there's some storytelling going on, it's because I have invented those stories, and I just and I educate AI every single time on the deep research. So if you haven't used deep research yet with ChatGPT, it's really important, because if you're just using regular GPT, that cut off sometime in early fall 2024. So everything we're experiencing right now in the economic landscape, political landscape, it's not aware of. And so using deep research, creating this is the current state that my ideal client is in, using that to educate AI, as well as my content pillars, my brand voice, what I stand for. And I'll also say, let's use Beyonce. How does Beyonce's story relate to this concept? Or how does Oprah's story relate to this concept? Or I'm obsessed with Diane von Furstenberg because I think she's such a badass feminist entrepreneur, and she inspires me so much, and she wanted to dress the woman in charge. But I educate AI on how that those are the stories I want to tell. And then it gives me some output with my communications framework. So I have a framework for everything. And I also have a framework for a LinkedIn post. And so I educate it on all of that and then say, generate 5 posts for the week.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love this. I have not gone into deep research yet, but now you're giving me courage. And I'm excited about it. I too learned rather quickly how to create frameworks based on how I naturally speak. And that's really important for everyone who's listening. But also, I just want to say, you have the most amazing ability right now in the world of AI, generated content from people who, quote unquote, aren't doing it right, aren't educated, don't know the difference, to stand out in your messaging with story plus frameworks, right?
Yeah.
Story plus frameworks. And so I just want to encourage everyone, if you are using AI, don't forget that personal story. You need to be weaving your own stories into the content because people respond based on emotion. Okay. And everything Deb just said, if you do not have in place, we need to get it in place. Content pillars, brand voice guide, communication frameworks. These are things those of us who have been in business and really know the power of great communication have on the back end that many people haven't even thought of, right? They have not thought of doing these things. So, this has been such a rich, fantastic conversation, Deb.
Oh my God, are we done already? This was so much fun. I could go on forever.
I know. We could go on forever. Well, the good news is I've been a guest on your podcast. You're now a guest on my podcast. We run in the same circles. And I'd love to have you back at a future date.
Yeah, I would love to come back at a future date. That would be lovely. Thank you.
You are welcome. So Deb has designed something that is actually very brilliant. It's the Experts Pricing Calculator. So Deb, tell us a little bit about this and where people can go grab it.
Yes. So it's lifeaftercorporate.com/pricing. It's a very simple calculator that all my clients use. I use all the time. It helps you reverse engineer your revenue goal based on your current pricing. And so now is an opportunity for you to look at the various service lines that you're offering, whether it's one-on-one, group coaching, consulting projects. And if you're a consultant, you need frameworks too, so that you're not all things to all people and you're not reinventing the wheel all the time, and some predictability in your revenue. And it will calculate for you how many clients you need and how many prospects you need to speak with. And it is really a driver of your focus and your behavior when it comes to sales based on your current product suite. So it's a cool little tool. And if you download that, we'll also share with you our pricing guide for coaches and consultants. We put together a brand new pricing guide. So what are all the various business models out there? What are the business models that are most scalable? What are the pricing mistakes that you should avoid? And all of that is in that guide. And if you're listening to the show, just mention this podcast and I'll get that pricing guide over to you.
I love that. And where can people connect with you online?
Yeah, LinkedIn is the place, and it's Deb Boulanger, Boulanger. I'm the only one, I believe. So reach out, let me know that you've heard me on the Joyful Business podcast, and we'll connect.
I love that. Thank you so much, Deb, for spending time with me today.
Thank you, Shannon. It's always a pleasure.
In the next episode, Amy will be interviewing a special guest, And the theme is going to be all about planting seeds and new beginnings and making those shifts that result in your business growth. We'll see you then. Adios.